Hi everybody, this is Dr. Tufail. I welcome you all in my class of Major Literary Movement. In our previous classes, we have talked about different literary movements, especially classicism, romanticism, realism, naturalism. If you look at our syllabus, then after naturalism, they have put existentialism, but in order to develop a sort of a connectivity between these movements and the logical order of the philosophical thought and the other academic and literary movements and the political movements and psychological outcomes in industry, the revolution. Apart from this Darwin theory, publication of Darwin theory and Marx and Engels, publications of Communist Manifesto and other things, they have affected human knowledge, human belief, and the way to study, understand nature, surrounding, atmosphere, environment, society, social behavior, individual. So, uh, my point of view is this: after naturalism, we will not discuss existentialism, but we will talk about transcendentalism. Then I will talk about surrealism. Then I will switch towards existentialism. So far, your syllabus is concerned, they have put these two movements before that, then they have put existentialism. But I have just changed the order. I will talk about, after naturalism, I will talk about transcendentalism and surrealism. Then I will talk about what existentialism is. And then we will also talk about the theater of absurd because they both are connected with one another, each other. And then we will switch towards structuralism, modernism, and postmodernism. This would be the course of our just sharing of these discussions. Okay. So let us today we are going to talk about this transcendentalism. Now, transcendentalism is as a literary movement. You know that in the previous class, when we talked about naturalism, the prime focus of naturalist was on intuition. They were not going to follow the simple reason or logic. These were the parameters or prime characteristics of realism. Realistic writers, they tried to depict and portray the society in its real tone and tenor and in a real context, how society behaved and what were the real problems and issues. But their naturalists, they parted their way with these the writers of who belong to reason. Why? Because their realism, they parted their way with the realism, and they tried to see or to analyze things in the natural setting, and they believe that individual cannot um, affect or change the circumstances in the situations, but it is nature. These are natural circumstances. They actually shape the society, and each and everything should be viewed and perceived and analyzed in the context of a natural setting. And it's nature that's going to affect people, it's going to affect society, it's going to affect environment. And after all, even a single person is outcome of a genetics and environment. And this is how they try to just part their way, with the realism. And when we look at that transcendentalism, they are also the followers of intuitions. They don't follow simply reason logic, but they are beyond of that thing. And this theory has a great similarities with the Eastern mystic philosophy, the philosophy of mysticism, Sufism in specific. So they have a great affinity with this thing, but there is a basic difference between this Tasawwuf of Islam or that Eastern belief of Sufism, mysticism, then and the transcendentalism also speaks of the same thing, but the way and the means to attain that transcendentalist stage, then these means and ways are different. So before proceeding further, when we look at the word transcend होता है अपने आप को ऊपर ले जाना, बाला तक करना, beyond जो न ले जाना या किसी मकाम से बाला मकाम की तरफ, अफजल मकाम की तरफ, ऊंचे मकाम की तरफ जाना. So we said that you need to transcend. So this is a transcendentalism, that man can transcend himself and he can just go to the upper part of this thing and the things will go move forward. So what is the transcendentalism? It emerged, it is an important movement in American philosophy of literature. It is a 19th century school of American theological and philosophical thought of combined respect for the natures and self-sufficiency. Here you find a kind of element of romanticism when we talked about romanticism, where they were inspired by nature. And again, after romanticism, we entered into the age of naturalism, but going back to this same aspect. But here, nature is not only a source of inspiration, nature is not only the source of fear, but here we find that nature is a kind of philosophical, a kind of institute itself that is going to guide you, and it is going to refine your being, or it's going to provide you an opportunity to transcend beyond the physical being, or that the baser part of human existence. So actually, they also this was inspired by the new trends in Christianity. This is Unitarianism. You know that look at the Catholic Church, where when there was a dominance of a church, and they were believer of the this trichar Trinity. But these this modern art, this just a bit liberal Christian class which came in the wake, and the Unitarian Christian, what they were, this was a liberal church, and they did advocacy of liberty, and they didn't follow the uh, means cut and dried rules of a church and the pope, etc. But they believe that individual can transcend himself or herself to meet his God. For meeting God, you don't need any church or somebody else that could lead you. So these are the basic philosophies of German Romanticism and Unitarianism. They inspired and guided this type of a thought. Okay, so Transcendentalism had a different meanings for each person involved in the movement. Okay, they are different people. They had a different. We will talk about their work, and they had a different interpretations regarding Transcendentalism. Actually, it was, as I mentioned, it was a philosophical movement, and the movement was a reaction to or against the general state of intellectualism and spirituality. Now, here two things are there, okay? Whether you are, there was a simple intellectualism, and when we call about a simple intellectualism, we are talking about the age of enlightenment, age of science, age of reason, when mind and reason and laws and values, they are going to govern the society, they are going to govern the people, they are the guiding principle, and they believe that they could bring a kind of a change in. But this doctrine that was of the this Unitarian Church, as taught at Harvard Divinity School, was a particular interest. So this movement, especially, parted its way with this simple reason, and they wanted to transcend the human being, that every individual should transcend. हर इंसान अपने आप को इतना अजीम और बालातर करे कि वो कायनात के आफाकी सच को, कायनात के अजीम सच जो पिना है, जो छुपा हुआ है, जो आम इस रीजन की और अकुल की आंख से कोई नहीं देख सकता, देख जो के अखरां दे विच जेड़ा अड़िया इश्क दी चाड़ी मूर न चढ़िया. If you are baffled and confused with the apparent reality based on reason, they cannot guide you from, okay, because senses cannot sometimes, because the knowledge or information that is received are accumulated, obtained through the help of senses. They can misguide you. Senses are not ultimate and the final source, but we have to go beyond that, these limited approach or the scope of senses, and we should try to understand this universe with the help of intuition, विजदान, एक विजत की कैफियत में चले जाना, और वहां से आपको कायनात के उन बिना राजों का इदराक हो जाए, वो आपके ऊपर खुल जाए. So they believe that this type of things would help human being could find a new truth, but for that he has to transcend himself. Okay, so this emerged from England and German Romanticism. There's emphasizes subjective intuitions over the objective empiricism. Now, what is a subjective intuition? So, individual, subjective is a personal intuitions. Zati Vijdan. This is the kafiyat. Now, this Vijdan is a particular kind of a state. This is a state of a trance when you are being carried away. You are being transported by this certain conditions, and you lose control over yourself, and you get disconnected with your this physical being, and you get all immersed in your inner vistas of your soul, or some hidden areas. And you might have seen sometime Abda Parveen when she's singing and she gets lost in the music, this all immersed. So this is means they believe that you get immersed in this intuition and the nature and the hidden part of your or that intent latent part of your being, and then you try to understand the truth beyond this object empiricism. So these empirical studies, which were carried out by science, the science that all studies conducted in the field of science are mostly empirical studies. They are based on experiments and observation. You need a clear-cut data, and at the base of that data, you can deduce or you infer your result and you suggest your recommendations. So scientific studies are empirical studies. They are based on the fact, reality, and they are connected with the society in the real life. So this was the age of science and the empirical science, and this was represented by realistic writers when realism dominated. But here we are going beyond this reason and realism and logic. We are going to follow intuitions, what I'm going to term here Vijdan. So transcendentalism is closely related to Unitarianism and the dominant religious movement was there. So Ralph Waldo, now where did it come from? Okay, I already mentioned you that it came from these are different writers have contributed towards transcendentalism, but the main is Ralph Waldo Emerson, who gave German philosopher Immanuel Kant credit to popularizing the term transcendentalism. Actually, he said that this Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is considered to be the father of this movement of transcendentalism, he considers that the credit goes to Kant, the German philosopher, who first time used this term of transcendentalism and popularizing or using this term. And he means that even Kant doesn't believe in this reason, because reason sometimes is misguiding. And when even when you follow go to a religion, if and you start believing in the things in a religion on the basis of simply reason, then sometimes you can't find the proper proof and evidence and the logic. So faith most follows intuitions, and it is a belief, and you can't justify or you can't satisfy and prove every fact of religion with the help of empirical truth and a scientific truth or with the evidence and proof, etc. So this thing, it began as a reform movement in the Unitarian Church, okay, because they wanted to liberate the church. It is not a religion. More accurately, it is a philosophy, a form of spirituality. Yes, of course, we can't say that it's a clear-cut, complete sect of religion. No, this is not a sectarian branch of Christianity, but it is a kind of a way to attain this spirituality. And even same cases here, because we call it tasawwuf, but we can't exactly say that this is a part of his religion, part of Islam, because when you will go through the theories of tasawwuf, may it be Wahdat al-Wujud and Wahdat al-Shahud. So Wahdat al-Wujud, most of the spiritual people are these Sufi people, they believe. But if you will dissect and analyze the tenets of tasawwuf, Sufism, you would find that at many places you find this ideology of tasawwuf or Sufism in a clear contrast and clashes with a religious belief or established belief. So, well, here is it is this is transcendentalism is not a religion or it is a sect of Christianity, but this is a spirituality that leads us to that to elevate human existence and This is based on the philosophy of transcendentalism in his essay. Actually, Emerson was the first person who gave this concept in his nature. Nature is the first his essay in which he gave this concept, and he introduced this philosophy that suggests that individual is capable of discovering this higher truth through intuitions. Now here they find that everything which is present in our surrounding, but they are it is controlled by certain laws and rules. So man, with the help of intuition, can find that thing, what is the truth and the self-reliance or self that the universal truth, the ultimate truth, whatever the name you gave it to, but it could only be gotten with the help of these intuitions. So intuitions is the way, and every individual is capable. Nature is the source of truth and inspiration. Yes, they educated self-trust and confidence. Here, much scope is that okay, you trust yourself, rely yourself, and believe thyself, trust thyself. So these were the slogans. Even here, you saw that Gautam Buddha was who is the founder of Buddhism. This is a part of just a type of religion, very synonymous, but having basic differences with Hinduism. So here you will find the same self-reliance and simplicity, self-trust, confidence. The simplicity of nature is a pathway to the divine soul and thus truth. So this nature, that's very simple, but this simplicity shows us that how much God is there and God is present in this nature. And through this simplicity, we can find God. And they believed in simplicity. They were fed up with this fast emerging civilization full of makeup and cosmetics, where the reality was blurred and the reason was dominant, but the reason that was rather materialistic in its nature, that only supported it paved the way for materialism. So they moved from this materialistic, this cosmetic, this self-centered approach to self-confidence and simplicity. Commercialism, materialism, and industrialism are dehumanizing and corruptions. Okay. So are dehumanizing and they are corrupted and contributing and um, aiding corruption. Okay, they are dehumanizing and they are aiding corruption in our society. So they are against of this type of approach, which is based on commercialism and materialism. Truths are attained through intuitions and experience. This is your individual phenomena, and you can achieve this thing. And further, I will explain that how they believe that you can attain this transcendentalism. Simple question: what is the essence of man, of being human, or of existence? So they believe that what is the same question you will again see these, especially existentialist writers would also raise that what is the man aim of human life. But here they believe that man is a born, so man is the part of nature, and this through nature he can transcend himself and he can meet to the ultimate truth, and he can have a kind of a connection, communion, union with the ultimate truth, and this is why he will be. So they are idealistic, they are optimistic. Its leaders sought improvement through social change, abolition of slavery. Slavery is bad, it should be abolished. Improvements in the public education, equal rights for all, including the poor, indigent, mentally ill. These all people who are the downtrodden, who are the untouchable part of the society, who are the discarded part of the society, who that is the rejected part of the society. So they believe that these all things should be supported, and through nature you can find God. You can transcend yourself through intuition, and we should stop these all sort of things which are based on slavery and inequality. And when the poor are discriminated, they are disregarded in the stream course or main course of life. So this is how they believed, or they moved. Okay, here you will find that how these God. This is a trinity. What there was a concept of a trinity which was considered God and Holy Spirit and Jesus. But later on, these transcendentalists, they just this trinity, this trica, they made it Unitarian. This is not a trinity. It's one. Man is nature, nature is man, man is God, God is nature. So these things, this triangle shows that these all things are interconnected and interdependent and interrelated. So their belief was that God was an internal force that gives all living things an inner light. They say that God is everywhere in every object, and that's God that gives beauty, essence, purpose, perpetuity, and significance to everything. May it be flower, may it be tree, may it be rock. God is there, and because of the presence of God, that flower has got a beauty, it's a cloud has got a rain, and that other things have got their essence. So, hence, all humans are capable of miraculous things provided they devote themselves to self exploration. If the individual, they are also, even God is present in every individual. So, if the man is going to explore, actually with the help of a god, he can just find very new things and very much wonderful things by his her inner light. Where do you think of you should do self explore? God is compilations of the oversoul. So your soul, this is what we and me and you all exist. This is simple soul. But once we transcend, we upgrade, okay, we go beyond this limits, then we meet to the oversoul. This is the superior soul. This is the universal soul. This is God. This is ultimate truth. This is eternal truth. Whatever name you give it, may God and may Brahma, may Ramayana, or whatever Ram, or whatever Krishna, and different people have a different concepts about God. So he believed that once you transcend, then you meet the oversoul, and that's the God is a spirit, goodness within nature, and each person. Now see, God is everywhere. Nature is nature, God, and they are all three are connected through the oversoul. Actually, God, man, nature, they are connected to oversoul. This oversoul is omnipresent, is omniscient. So they believe that God has a two qualities. God is immanent and God is immanent. Immanent, God is lying somewhere up higher in the sky, and God is immanent, it's everywhere. So they are going to believe in both things, that God is present in every object, and again, God is somewhere up in the sky or somewhere high position. So they emphasize that through these things, human being can attain with the self-reliance and self-trust. If the individual has, then they can attain this type of a high position. They can transcend, and they can ultimately meet to God. Okay, so nature is a source of information, a source of truth and inspiration. It's just inner feelings of reliance and connected to spirituality and God. That's only through nature you can know about God in yourself. Okay, so nature is very much important for them, and nature is going to teach you about God, about yourself, and with this inspiration, this spirituality, and nature is simple in stone, and sorry, it's a representation, or it is very much complicated in another way. It has a different phenomena in the different ways it appears and disappears. So they believe that with the help of this thing, you can move forward. Okay, so what is a man? Materialism and industrialisms are dehumanizing and adding corruption. They are just going to add corruption in our society. It should be avoided. Okay, they believe that it should be avoided. It is not good. It should be avoided, and then they believe that with the help of this, you can achieve this thing. So human being can achieve these things with the help of getting rid of this materialism and this industrialism, and then they believe that Wymerson is as a man is not a farmer or a professor or an engineer, but he's all champion individualism. So individual, whatever this individuality makes you able. The movement talks about man is himself. Okay, whatever you are, that's your life is going to decide to choose and say the things. So this is how man individual can transcend and can go up and can meet to God. So transcendentalists believe feelings of individualism and naturalism connected to universe and universe connected to God. So this is how you are individual, you are connected with the universe, and universe is connected with God, and they all are connected with this oversoul. This oversoul is going to connect these all human and universe and God. Divine can be known only through power of emotions and intuitions. They are don't follow the reasons. Soul's connection with God and nature is source connected to spirituality. So this is a source. With the help of soul, you can get connected to God, and they had a divine presence in the natural world. Everything transcended accepted the concept of nature as a living mystery, full of a sign. Nature is a symbolic. There are multiple symbols. There is a symbol of life and death and love and care and attention and rejection and dominance and power. And these all things are there in nature. So nature is full of mysteries, it's full of signs, full of symbols. Everything in the nature represents certain qualities, and we have to understand, but not with the help of reason, but with the help of intuitions that could make us capable to attain that spiritual enlightenment, which otherwise is not possible with the help of reason and logic. If we depend on our senses, we will be doomed to religious skepticism. Now, look at that; they are not going to believe senses. That was the stand where Kant also rejected the philosophy based on only reason and intellectualism. They started to talk about this is intuition. And if you will look, majority of the writers, especially in the subcontinent, mate, Rumi, Hafiz, Jami, Ghalib, Latif, Ayaz somehow, but this Latif, Sachal, Bulla, Bau, that Khushal, Khatak, they almost go with the same type of intuitions. Even when Ghalib says, Ghaib se aate hain, mazamin khayal mein, he means that he doesn't write with the help of his intellect, but these ideas they come to him through his intuition, and that makes him capable of doing things. So ਇਸ਼ਕ ਦੀ ਅੱਖਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅੜਿਆ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਦੀ ਚਾੜੀ ਮੂੰਹ ਨ ਚੜਿਆ, if you get confused with these reasons, with these facts, and with these the knowledge collected obtained with the help of senses, then you will get misguided. So they believed of intuitions, and we must depend on our super sensory abilities. You have this super sensory ability, with the help you can produce these things. They are rejected of external authority. Truth is not to be found in the tradition or in creeds. Okay, before of that there was objective truth. Okay, whatever the truth is, that is an object. Okay, so these people, they believed in an external truth. Even to that connect, they also rejected the church or book or person. They say that no, truth is not outside. It's not objective truth. It's a subjective truth. You cannot know what is the truth after reading a book or following a church or following a priest. No, it isn't. You don't need to be connected to this external world in order to get connected to oversoul God. For that, you need to connect to yourself. You have to dig deep. You have to go into the inner vistas of your being in order to find the eternal truth. And they, how can you, और आप ये अपने आप को इस मकाम पे कैसे पहुंचा सकते हैं? That is what they have made the way. They had a procedure. जो राल्फ वाल्डो एमर्सन ने कहा था कि आपने कैसे अटेंड करना है. I will explain later on, that will help us to attend. So transcendentalists, they had a high opinion of humanity's moral state. Okay, they were not doubtful. Naturalistic writers, they thought that man is not a social animal. He's a beast. Okay, and he's a biological being, and full of all flaws, and full of furies and angers and emotions, baser emotions, greed, and etc. But here, humanity is just a moral state, and they have a great potential. Every human has within him or her divine reason. The over soul is present in every object. So God is there, and every person is a representative of God, or is just a shadow of a God. So the every person must be free to realize his or her fullest potential, if people could reach their fullest potential. And the moment you get that thing, when you materialize your potential, and to help after attaining this state of transcendentalism, then you come to understand the real truth. So therefore, the transcendentalists were reformers. They admonantly opposed and fought war against capitalism, greed, and hedonism and slavery. Okay, so they opposed and fought war against. So they were not in the favor of capitalism. No, they believe that it's not true. Greed or hedonism. Hedonism was that when you are living only for the life of pleasure, for your personal aggrandizement or self-centeredness, slavery, etc. They condemn these things. Okay, so if we move forward to the major contributors towards this theory was Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is also considered to be the father of this. Okay, there is Margaret Fuller, Henry David Thoreau, and Walt Whitman. They contributed towards this theories. Here, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he was born with Bible in his hand. Okay, this is very famous. Okay, he was a poet, he was an essayist, he was a lecturer, father of transcendentalism, and his essay, Self-Reliance, he gave the philosophy of individualism, that touch yourself. And there was another work, Oversoul, the soul which is above other souls, and omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. God is the oversoul. It is Man, nature, God, they all are connected through this oversoul, and oversoul is a kind of a attribution or characteristics of a God that remains everywhere. It is immanent, it is imminent, it is God is everywhere, and God is at one way, one place, high place. So in that sense, it's going to connect that God, in one sense, God is up where some you have to transcend to reach there, but the other sense, the attributions of a God, जो उसकी खुसूसियात हैं, वो हर चीज में मौजूद है. Somehow that is going to be a similarities with our concept of Vaidatul Wujud. एक कसर दर लख कोड़े कर्स गड़खियों जेड़ा कन्या परख तेरा साहिब सामो एक महलात है कसर है उसके जो है ना वो हजार जो लाखों दरवाजे हैं और करोड़ हा उसको खिड़कियां हैं जिस दरवाजे और जिस खिड़की से देखता हूँ मैं उसी खुदा को उसको देखता हूँ. So this is what they are also going to talk about this oversoul. But then there was another work, American scholar. So he is considered to be the intellectual independence of America, and he founded this Transcendentalist Club. And he also gave the concept to have a union with this eternal truth. अब इसका मतलब क्या था कि आप किस तरीके से जो है ये चीज हासिल कर सकते हो. हमारे पास मशरिक के अंदर ये चीज के मुराकबे में जब बंदा बैठता है वो फिर एक आइडिया को अपने जहन में लेता है, किसी और आइडियाज को आने नहीं देता. फिर वो अल्लाह 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 या राम 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 एक नाम को फौरन जो है ना वो मुसलसल जो है ना वो जपता रहता है या उसको जो है ना वो पुकारता रहता है, उसकी वध करता रहता है और उसमें फिर गुम हो जाता है, गायब हो जाता है और उसी जिक्र में, उसी फिक्र में, उसी ख्याल में जो है ना वो फना फिल्ला हो जाता है. ये जो स्टेट थी कि जो है ना वो मुराकबे में चले जाना. अब ये क्या कहता है अबाउट द इमर्शन बिलीव दैट व्हेन इसका दिस इज अ बिट अपोजिट. ये हमारे सूफी से थोड़ा मुख्तलिफ क्यों है, कैसे है? ये कहता है कि आप जब अपने जहन में ख्यालात को रोकते हो, किसी भी ख्याल को अपने दिमाग में ना आने दो. डोंट अलो एनी थॉट टू एग्जिस्ट इन योर माइंड. जब आपके दिमाग में कोई ख्याल नहीं आएगा तो आपके दिमाग के अंदर एक खला पैदा होगा. जब कोई चीज गिलास में पानी होता है, जब पानी गिरा देंगे तो गिलास खाली नहीं है, उसके अंदर स्पेस है, खला आ गया. इसी तरह दिमाग में कोई आइडिया नहीं होगा तो वहां पे खला पैदा होगा. ये जो स्पेस है ये स्पेस कनेक्टेड है बाहर के स्पेस के साथ, फिर ये स्पेस बाहर के स्टेट के साथ, फिर वो बाहर की स्टेट फिर पूरी हमारे प्लेनेट से दूसरे प्लेनेट, हमारी गैलेक्सी से दूसरी गैलेक्सी, और फिर ये स्पेस पूरी कायनात तक फैला हुआ है. उसने कहा कि जब आप अपने दिमाग में ख्यालात की रो को, धारा को बंद करके वाइट पैदा करोगे, खाल पैदा करोगे, स्पेस पैदा करोगे, खिला पैदा करोगे, उसके अंदर जो खिला पैदा होगा, जो स्पेस पैदा होगा, वो स्पेस बाहर की दुनिया से, यूनिवर्स से कनेक्टेड हो जाएगा. फिर इस बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी की का स्पेस जिसकी कोई हद और लिमिट का हमें अंदाजा नहीं है, आप उस स्पेस का पार्ट हो जाओगे और उसी दौरान जो कुछ आपको चीजें महसूस करते हो, जो आपको चीजें समझ में आती हैं, आपके विज्ञान को इदराक होता है, जब आप नॉर्मल आ जाएं, नॉर्मल स्टेट में आ जाएं और दोबारा ख्यालात की धारा बहना शुरू हो जाए तो आप उन्हीं ख्यालात को जो आपने उस कैफियत में सीखे थे वो दूसरे लोगों को बताएं. So he means like that. This is the method. Okay, you have to create some void in your mind. Don't allow any thought to your exist to appear to come in your mind. And when there's no thought, there will be a void, a gap. So this void will be filled up with a space, and this space is connected with outer space until you become being an individual. But now, while you have a union, you have a kind of a encounter, and you got immersed in the entire space of the universe. So you are larger than the universe, and whatever the space, whatever the experience, whatever the ideas, whatever the things you feel, perceive in that particular moment of a time, when you come to the normal state, then you should tell the people what it was. So this is how everybody has to transcend and get connected, immersed in universe. Okay, the David Thoreau, he was a essayist and a poet. Okay, he was inspired by this Indian philosophy and immersions. Okay, his work is well done that suggests escape from the society and find himself in a wildlife. Okay, now he see that it suggests that you need to escape from this society. This society is full of problem, turbulence, tribulation, full of affectation, show off, and there's only a kind of just what we call means it's not a reality based world where the people they are simply imitating, the people are simply posing to be what they are not. So this world of materialism is a world of show off and affectation and just ostentation. Get rid of this, go to wildlife, get surrounded by the nature, be the part of the nature. Nature ways is simplicity, nature ways the reality, and your encounter, you are immersed. If you get immersed in nature, then you realize there's something superior, and nature teaches you something wonderful. And this is a quotation from his work Algen, when he said that simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say, let your affairs be as two or three and not 100 or 1,000. We believe that your 100 and 1,000, which is what you are subject to, get rid of that thing and start living the life of simplicity. And another work was a civil disobedience, okay, in which he wrote against, when he was in a jail, and he wrote against government become they are corrupt and the peoples have a right to rebel. And he believed that the government is not a good, government is a corrupt, so people have a right to rebel against that government. So Theoro also argues following immoral laws it consists slavery, okay. He argues that those laws, okay, which are not the good laws, and he says they also argues against the immoral laws which base which consist slavery. So the laws which consist slavery or which promote slavery. So he just uh, endorse, okay, which endorsed slavery. So he was against to these ideas and he wanted to get rid of this thing. So argument of disobedience to and unjust state. Okay, he is in a favor that if you are going to disobey state, that is not a true state. This is a greedy state, and whether they don't work for the people's good, it's not a welfare state. So the individual have a right to protest or revolt against this. I ask for not at once no government, but at once a better government. So this is what he believed, that he's not against the government. He's not a kind of writers who are uh, just anti-state and they don't believe in a state, who are called as anarchist. So he's not anarchist in a philosophical understanding, but he believes that there should be good government, not the bad government. There was another writer, first female writer who started to write about this. Okay, she's a woman, and Margaret Fuller, and she was the first editors of the Dial at Transcendental Journal. They published a journal, and this journal has, and she is the first female editors of this, and she published series of ethnical scriptures translation from Chinese and Indian philosophical works, and they wanted to convey. Chinese is also, if you will go to the work of Confucianism, you will find the same approach of mysticism is there. So this Chinese mysticism, Indian mysticism, this Islamic mysticism, they have a kind of a concepts which are very similar. They have a similarity with this transcendentalism. And last but not least, what Whitman, as young man inspired by the transcendentalist, his writings, poetry reflected the ideals of the romantic or transcendental movement, but also acknowledge man's ever-changing social and economic environment, how man is changing, how man is uh, gradually and continuously man is going to transcend, and the social and other circumstances they are going to affect him. So like this, and his very famous work Leaves of Grace is a famous work what he wrote, and this work especially is full of his wonderful thought and beliefs, and they do a sort of advocacy of this transcendentalism in that sense. So there's a one selection from his poetry, what I will share with you from what Whitman. Now you see, oh me, oh life, the questions of these recurring, of the endless trance of their faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I, and who more faithless? Of eyes that vainly crave the light of the objects mean, of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plodding and sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and the useless years of the raised with the raised me intertwined, the questions, O me, so sad, recurring, what goods amid these? O me, O life, and then comes the answers. That you are here, that life exists in identity, that the powerful play goes on and you will contribute to others. Okay, so he questions who am I, what is my, how am I surrounding as by this world. Okay, so because transcendentalists say that if you will look at the surrounding, you won't be able to understand. If you want to live, then you come out of this crowd and you have to live an individual life when your individual beliefs are there. So these theories, they came from with the help of these philosophers. It emerged from that. It's a belief is that the inherent goodness of people, man is a good by nature, and nature adherent belief that society and its institutions have corrupted the purity of the individual, and they have faith that people are at their best when truly self-reliant and independent. So institutions, societies, authorities can't make a human being good, but with a self-reliance, every individual can make himself as a good. They emphasize the subjective intuitions over objective empiricism. They are adherent to believe that individuals are capable of generating completely original insight with little attention and deference to the past matter. So every individual is a genius and everybody can contribute um, his contribution after going into the state of transcendentalism. So this verse, okay, in regional relations to the universe, it's not based on reasons, observations, senses, etc., but it's based on intuitions. And your individual, every individual has got his connection with this nature, which is going to connect to tell us something new. And they believe that in transcendentalism, there's a completely subjective intuitions over objective empiricism, and beliefs are transcendentalism, God, man, and nature, which we discussed. They are not different, but they are the same things because the both three things are connected with the oversoul. So by this thing, that even man, if he could transcend, he have that interaction with the nature, and through this transcendental state, he can get immersed to God, and ultimately they all become one. So these reasons cannot guide us, but intuitions can guide us. Again, it's going back to the same thing. Um, uh, अखरां विच जेड़ा आ रिया इश्क दी चाड़ी मूंह न चढ़िया ईमान सलामत हर कोई मंगदा सारा इश्क सलामत रखी हो. Here is the same thing. They are not going to talk about reason, which is based on a faith, but means a faith which is based on reason, but they are going to talk about ishq. मेरा इश्क सलामत रखी पाओ ईमान दिया मैं धोयू. Means they don't care for these things, but they care for ishq. Okay, they are based on intuition. So intuitions for these philosophers are these thinkers, these writers. Intuitions is something important, and they follow that intuitions, and they believe that by the help of these things we can understand. But the question remains that only intuitions is reliable. Only with the help of intuitions we can attain this thing. Yes, at the individual level you may have certain experiences, but collectively it will be very difficult to. And other thing is that they don't have any scientific method that everybody can go and attain this stage of transcendentalism. So everybody has his own experience, everybody is coming up with his own individual understanding of the universe. So ultimately these things somehow can also be a kind of complicated, and they become intricate. They are not so simple or easy to comprehend. So then everybody would live his or her life with his individual experience based on his or her intuitions. So that would lead us towards individuality, and we would lose the sort of structure what we have. So because of these things, you know that there came the writers who again tried to talk about the structures, because structure is based on certain concrete things. So then again, when we will go that how this philosophy will be seen with the contrasting lens of structuralism, and things will be connected there. Thank you very much for this your attention and listening to me. Please keep working on your these recorded lectures and also the material what we are sending to you till the COVID-19 is over and we are able enough to be get united in the classroom. Thank you very much. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.